Part 3. Conan and Torre stood before a collection of rich merchants. In his short time in Aranjun, Conan had heard many of their names. Kuai Lung had a scowl upon her face due to her distaste for men from the far north. She considered them little more than the hairless apes, an attitude from her upbringing that she had never been able to abandon. It did not aid matters that Conan had been blamed, unjustly, for the stealing from her vendors a sizable purse. The man draped in fine silks was Joshua Xing. Conan had never met the man, but knew his reputation for the love of gambling and wines. He was an indolent fop, who had a great acumen for spotting whatever the next major fad amongst the rich would be and buying into it. He supported Aranjun's theatre and some of its artists, and so was privy to much gossip amongst the finer people of the city. The Stygian and his female slave troubled Conan. He had not had much experience with Stygians, but rumors made them all out to be backstabbing wretches who specialized in poisons both of plants and of the tongue. Conan knew of at least one man that had run afoul of the Stygian Sebek Ammon. The man had lost his thumbs. Granted, that man had been stealing from Sebek Ammon's home at the time, but to the barbarian's way of thinking that deserved either a quick death or an incarceration. Making the man useless was simply wasteful and cruel. In the center of the gathering sat Jadul Rajam, who Conan had been the guest of before. In the time since, Conan had performed some minor strong-arm work for Jadul, and had found him to be an honorable man. It was a hard thing to be an honorable man and a merchant at the same time. Honor often adversely affected one's profit margin. "Friend Conan, it is good to see you again," Jadul began. "And you as well, friend Rajam Sadar," Conan replied. "I see you have made more friends in Aranjun, hopefully as generous and honorable as yourself." Rajam laughed. "You see, Indrit, he is already learning to speak proper Vengean, and you said that he would always be little more than a lout." "I did say that," Indrit replied.
"I know this, barbarian," Kuai Lung hissed. "We can surely find a better agent than this braying ass."
"Dear Kuai Lung, I do not know what offense I have given you, but it was not intentional," Conan said.
"You plucked nearly 1,000 taels from my caravan outside Minabara, you spat-at scum," she hissed. "Were we in my house, I would have you flayed."
"Ah, I see. I regret, Madame Lung, that being a head taller than most men in the area, I am easily mistaken for every other foreigner of the north that comes this way to ply his sword. I know of who and what you speak. The man that stole your tales is called Sigurd Holdensson. He is a Vanir from a land as northern as mine, and unlike his kin he has dark rather than bright hair. I have seen him drinking away your profits on the bashed fool. Your men can find him there. He often wears a dark cloak with the cowl pulled low." Kuai Lung tapped her fingers on the wooden arm of her chair. It was a gesture akin to a lion's twitching its tail while looking at prey and attempting to decide if the prey was worth the effort to pounce. Conan did not let his reservations show.
"Are you quite done posturing, Kuai Lung?" asked Sebek Ammon. "May we now address our agent about the task we need him to accomplish?"
The irritation in the Stygian's voice was evident, and Conan did not miss that the Kichin deferred to the man. "Friend Conan, we have need of your services. Tell me, have you noticed the change in the pecking order of the street gangs?" Jadul Rajam asked. "The alley rats are always nipping at one another," Conan replied.
"Excuse me, lady and sirs, but I have seen it. Street toughs that were once fair and reliable have been ambushed and replaced with more hawkish and oppressive men. We whores are being blood and filched from. Shopkeepers must now pay not only the city's taxes, but those excised on them by the gangs as well. Many suffer, and everywhere the people of the market and the fields blame foreigners for the trouble," Tori stated. Jadul Rajam turned his attention to the woman. Though she had delivered her statement with trepidation, he sensed in her sleeping courage. Indrit had told him of how he had encountered her and the Cimmerian at sword and knife point. Jadul reconsidered the woman before him. She was clearly intimidated by the wealth and power of her betters. Yet she would not cower before them. He would speak to Indrit later about snatching Torre up into his service. "Indeed.
Things have changed, Jadul said. Earlier this evening, someone attempted to assassinate Baal Hattar. A loss for the fine merchant community of Arjun, Conan said. To his credit, it almost sounded sincere. He lives yet, Joshua Singh hissed. Gods be praised, Conan exclaimed. Do we know the identity of his assassins? She posed as a slave in his court, but before she died she cried out glory to Zath, Jadul said. Rajam waved at Joshua Singh in a gesture meant to politely silence him. What make you of that, Conan? It would seem that Durle Mulk has decided he must have more control of the marketplace. It will only be a matter of time until he decides that other merchants are not devout enough to his liking, Conan said. Agreed, said Jadul Rajam. He looked to his companions and no one contradicted him. Then he continued. We have been debating how to proceed, and a course of action has come to us. One that requires thievery's finesse and a woman's wiles. I will not lie to you, it will be dangerous. But what you risk in danger shall be compensated in coin. Are you game? This last question Jadul addressed to Torre. She nodded her head. Jadul's confidence in her increased from the humility of her response. Many claimed boldly and brashly to be brave. Rajam had seen that courage was largely resignation to one's fate. Very well, Jadul motioned for the Stygian to speak. 3 days ago, Durle Mulk had a scroll from my homeland delivered to his private chambers. It is no longer there. The caravan that transported the scroll belonged to Baal Hattar. The caravan master was robbed in an alley and slain 2 nights ago. His outriders were slain in their sleep. Then there was an attack upon Baal Hattar by poisoning. I believe that Durle has imported a scroll with forbidden knowledge, at least in Zamora, and is now seeking to eliminate any who would have knowledge of him seeking out the components for an operation of dark magic. A high crime, Conan commented. Yes, but one for which Durle will likely never be tried. Durle Mulk has prestige and wealth enough to corrupt the Watch and buy off any nobleman that would dare bring him before the courts. No, civilized courses will no longer serve us, Sebek Alman replied. So you seek out a blade in the dark? I have no objection to killing a man in a fair fight, but skullduggery is a tactic beneath us. Even for a foe of such slimy character as Mulk, Conan said. We cannot afford to slay Mulk. The consequence of Durle Mulk being assassinated would be a catastrophe. The mob is already turning against foreigners. Should they lose their damn spider priest, their muttering may turn into murder, or worse. Boycotts, Joshua Singh shivered as he ended his statement with such a horrible notion. What we need is not his death, but information for his ruin, Jadul Rajam interjected. This is where you and your new lady friend shall be tasked. Our plan is to have the woman distract Mulk while you pilfer through his private chambers. We need the scroll, or at least documentation proving he is the purchaser of it. Preferably, we need both. Conan grunted. The goal then is to send him to the headsman's axe? No. Even dead by the hand of the state, Durle Mulk might become a martyr. We need this image as a pure Zathian priest and paragon of Zamoran values to lose its luster. Our hope is to reveal his plot to the public and let the mob drive him out of his position. He will leave the city never to return, Jadul said. Will he not simply use his wealth as he already acquired to assassinate you? Conan asked. Those convicted of the black arts forfeit all their property to the crown, Quailong stated. He would doubtless have some wealth and loyal servants tucked away, but he will be more interested in using them to rebuild his life elsewhere. Along the way or in foreign cities, any manner of things can happen to a fugitive, Joshua Singh said. The plan seems sound enough then. I am to get a scroll and then return it here. But will he not notice it missing and leave prematurely? Conan asked. If he is sufficiently distracted, he should not care. As for the scroll being discovered later, well, to that end you will replace it with this, Sebek Alman said. He touched his female slave's shoulder, and she reached into a wooden scroll case. From it she withdrew a scroll made of aged vellum. Into the vellum the writing of Stygia had been cut alongside diagrams of unmoving gods. The slave closed the scroll and replaced it in the case. "How is it you have a false copy of the scroll?" Conan asked. "It is not a copy of the same scroll, but the chapters of the Book of Skelos that Mok has sought, and the chapters of this tale of Set and Geb begin with the same lengthy introductory passages. With any luck, it will delay Mok's detection of our plan long enough for us to reveal his crime," Sebek Daman said. "What is it I am looking for to prove the scroll was purchased by Mok? I doubt he will have a receipt for necromantic texts in his ledgers. Further, I doubt the contraband could have passed through the gates without being discovered. The customs agents damn near demanded they bathe me when I first entered to see if I was hiding anything," Conan said. "Surely he has bribed some custom agents. There would still be a receipt for goods entering the city. We simply need a copy of all his deliveries for the past month. Either copy or rip the page from his ledgers that shows his purchases and bears the priest's personal seal. Then bring that and the scroll to us," said Jadul Rajam. Why would Mok not have simply had the temple purchase the boxes and items arrived in, or had a patron purchase the scroll and then give it to Mok? Conan asked. He dare not risk the items beyond any official documentation that the crown could review. Nor could he afford for a private person to peer inside the box and reveal its secret practices, said Kwai Lung in a tone that an adult uses when instructing a child. The search of his vaults will require time, at least a single evening, perhaps more, Conan turned to Torre. If you agree to this, you may be forced to hide amongst his servants for quite some time. Can you manage the deceit for that long? She nodded. Then Torre said, Men are easy enough to distract and deceive. I will keep the priest occupied each night to give you time to search his vaults. Each morning I will go to the market on errand for kitchen provisions. When you have the item, we will simply let, Torre pointed to Indrit, him come purchase my service and bring me back to Rajam Sadar's mansion for safety. Jadul barely stifled his short bark of a laugh. The look upon Indrit's face that the whore had plucked him from the crowd as a patron, even a false one, was causing the disciplined warrior to turn red in embarrassment. Jadul was also impressed that the woman had correctly used the honorific of his station after hearing the term used only once, and incidentally. Yes, I should watch this one and see if she can be groomed to my future uses. She has a quick mind and is properly cynical, Rajam thought. Jadul Rajam then rose and took the woman's hand. By Ganesha, who favors all enterprises, I will keep faith with you, if you keep faith with me. What am I to be paid? Torre asked. 100 taels, Rajam offered without blinking. Conan had to catch the swooning woman.